Hello. After around 120 hours at work, kind of. Yeah, stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I don't think I'd ever. So, this should tell you exactly what we're in for right here. This is a good still. this is a promising 10-minute video. We're starting off with hair pulling. Oh no. The title of the video is I'm Frustrated Gaming is Being Ruined. I could see that. Yeah. Oh, all right. Make sure volume should be fine. I'll adjust it if needed. Oh, it starts. This is the first frame of the video. You know it's going to be good. Oh, no. All right. Desktop audio on. Let's do it.
It seems to me like whenever I talk about a game, I can't get away from whatever the previous game was. So we were watching Path of Exile, and when Path of Exile 2 was being announced and the gameplay footage was being shown, which by the way, it did look really good. The only thing that was going on in the chat was people comparing it to Diablo 4 and talking about how Diablo 4 is dead because of this footage, how, Path of Exile was already a better game, even though none of us have played it, and then how
There's a lot to break down there in the first sentence. All right. This is not unique to Diablo 4 or like this. This has happened since the dawn of gaming. Why? Because this is a human condition, not a gaming condition. People do this about legitimately everything. It just gets really aggressive with gaming because it's young people who don't know how to rein it in yet. Largely young people, a lot of young people. And they don't know how to kind of control how they feel about other people's perceptions of what they're into. So people, I guess with this example, Path of Exile is a better game. I like Path of Exile. That means Diablo 4 is trash, and anyone who doesn't like Path of Exile is also trash. Because I need validation for my opinion. Because I'm young and full of emotions, and I just can't, kind of situation, you know? Which is, we were all like that. I went through my phase, you went through your phase, we all go through it. It's just something you learn to deal with as you get older. And stop caring about. Ideally, some people never stop. That's when it becomes an issue. Young people, you expect it out of them. They don't know any better. When older people do it, they should know better, and then you judge them harshly for it. But Diablo 4, Path of Exile 2 is going to kill Diablo 4. Path of Exile 2 is a better game. Path of Exile 1's the better game. Chat, why do you think so many people dove directly into D4? Without question. Not counting the mainstream audience. Obviously, the ones that were brought in by Megan Fox, and the mainstream marketing push. I don't know how many of those there actually were. Probably a decent amount, but who knows? So there's a reason a lot of people were all hyped up about Diablo 4. It's because Path of Exile has become kind of frustrating for a lot of ARPG players. Those who aren't heavily invested and don't have, veteran syndrome. I've been playing Path of Exile since it came out. Legitimately, I was there for the first year of its life. I was there for its launch. I didn't participate in any beta testing or anything, but I was there from the start. I've seen the evolution of Path of Exile, people's opinions of it, the ebb and flow of the player base's approval. It's interesting to see everyone put rose-tinted glasses on about PoE and its history, just because the new big kid's on the block, And Diablo 4 is touching a lot of those same issues that Path of Exile had, which you could argue Path of Exile blazed the trail. Diablo 4 shouldn't be having quite as many issues, like this is established. Path of Exile set the tone. Which is fair, but the problem is, Path of Exile set a tone, and there's a lot of ARPG players, myself included, that just don't like that tone. So if Diablo 4 just followed the same path and trail as Path of Exile, I probably wouldn't be playing it right now. Because why would I play it right now? If I was really, I'd just play Path of Exile, but I don't want to play Path of Exile, so I'd just play neither of them. I don't like Path of Exile anymore. I liked it more when it was newer, even during its pain periods for the first couple of years. But now it's just this over-bloated carcass of just needless complexity and ugh. And I just don't like it. I'm not even talking about the skill system, actually, or the passive tree. I actually like the passive tree. I think that's one of the best parts of PoE, because it's kind of fun to navigate and figure out. It's not as complicated as it looks. But the rest of the game that's developed around it has just become this absolute disaster. The one thing PoE really does well is their boss fights, though. That's the shining example. That, and you get to kill a lot of stuff, a good mob density. Well, that's about it. Like, I don't like the builds in Path of Exile. They're kind of boring. They're not focused enough. They're all about clearing an entire screen, so you can't even really appreciate what you're doing, because it's not just clearing your screen. That's melee. Melee, your goal is to clear your entire screen. For range, your goal is to clear the next 3 screens over in one shot. And with design like that, you don't even need to focus on survival anymore. You just dump stat survivability so you can blow up more screens. I don't like it. I don't find Path of Exile fun anymore. Diablo 4 in that capacity has been a breath of fresh air, because it's a bit more down into it. Admittedly, it's a little too down into it with the camera. Let's pull that back out a little bit. But anyway, Diablo 4's got its problems. It's trying to take a parallel path to PoE, but not the same path. So some things definitely shouldn't have gone wrong. Like, resist shouldn't be a dead stat right now. There's no excuse for that. The camera distance and being off-screen, clearly the camera was originally designed to be further out, and in those cases, the things that just off-screened you wouldn't have been off-screen. But at some point, they decided we need to really shove this camera down in. I don't know why. I don't know who thought it was a good idea. They shouldn't have done it, and now it's creating problems. I don't know why, but that should not have happened either. But every ARPG that comes out has to go through its growing pains. Not a single one of them has ever come out perfect. Arguably even good. Like, you could have said the same thing about Path of Exile as you're saying about Diablo 4 right now. Diablo 2 blazed the trail. How are you making these mistakes? Like, some of the mistakes being so hardcore, people are like, it's inexcusable. Your hardcore character disconnects and suddenly, like, it's just dead. There's no security system there. There's no fallback. If I remember correctly, Path of Exile didn't have a fallback when it first came out either. And you could argue that trail was already blazed because there were games that had done something. It wasn't great, but there were games that had already tried hardcore connection forgiveness. Or, you know, just had an offline mode for hardcore players, where you didn't have to worry about that. You could say Path of Exile did a regression on that, even. But it's the same thing that's happened every step of the way. Every game goes through what Diablo 4 is going through now. And then the honeymoon phase ends, you get into regular development cycle, the early problems are fixed, and then suddenly it's a good game. That's what its Path of Exile 1 took. It's a path Diablo 2 took. I remember Diablo 2 had some pretty, it had some problems when it first came out, too. Diablo 2 had quite a few patches in its life cycle. Let's be honest. Diablo 4's going... Now, again, some things are dumb, like Blizzard should know better than having a dead stat. And they're adding that dead stat to more things with the promise that, hey, we'll fix it later. Which has always been a big problem for Blizzard. They plan on fixing something later, but start interacting with that system sooner. You can see the same with, like, Sork things. They started preparing for Sork being good in Season 2 now, but it's not good now, so it's just like a slap in the face. Like, you're preparing this one thing for when Sork is inevitably good, but they're not good yet, so this thing means nothing. Why? You're getting it backwards. It's all twisted up. But this has been a problem with Blizzard through basically all their stuff. It happens in World of Warcraft, happens in Overwatch. It happens everywhere. This is just a Blizzard problem in general. They've always had it. Did Blizzard North have it? I'd almost say Blizzard North had it too, to an extent. Some of their patches were, yeah, maybe not as bad, but it was still there. Anyway, this is nothing new.
Diablo is dog shit for not being able to do what Path of Exile 2 is
We
doing.
just talked about
like
that.
the hyper reactionary of this, and then you have the people that were like, Path of Exile 2 looks garbage, Diablo 4 is a million times better. It's almost like gaming politics, where people, no one can just talk about the game we're watching. Like, I was kind of hoping that while we were watching, it was just going to be a bunch of people like explaining why they like Path of Exile, what they're excited by, etc. And to be honest, my chat is mostly fairly positive adults. It seems there's only been like 4 people ever banned in my Twitch chat.
My chat's toxic trash.
I'll get one guide sometime, but other than that, it's like for the most part.
I'm kidding.
I mean, my chat's pretty wholesome. I would
chat?
say everyone's pretty good people, and we try really hard to cultivate an atmosphere of like we don't shit talk other content creators. We try to be positive in general, not just about a game we're talking about, but we just try to like have a good time. My opinion is people come to a live stream to be entertained, listen to somebody talk, and also
I more or less share this opinion. Like, nobody wants to hear my. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes it leaks out a little bit, but nobody comes here to listen to my deep political takes. Sometimes surface level conversation around these things can be entertaining or interesting or retrospective, which can be valuable, but for the most part, nobody wants me deep diving into politics. And I don't want me deep diving into politics. It's everywhere. I don't want anything to do with it. I understand this point of view of his. I share it. I believe in it wholeheartedly. You know, you dip your toe in a little bit here and there, but you never plunge in. You never go the whole 9 yards. And one thing I've noticed is when you remove politics from things, when you remove any semblances of religion or religious conflict from things, people generally get along with each other. When nobody knows what anyone else's politics are, people just generally get along. Even people who, if they knew each other's politics, would rip each other's throats out, if they don't know, they get along. Politics serves very little purpose other than tearing things apart. I agree. Yeah.
So, for the most part, avoid most of the other bullshit. If someone wants to listen to
literally try to get you. Oh, I can rant about a lot of stuff. It doesn't have to be politics.
Or hear somebody whine.
I just ranted about Path of Exile.
Turn on the TV because there's plenty of that. So, for the most part,
true. Yeah, it's another good point. Nobody needs to listen to me do it. They can just turn on the TV, and it's everywhere. Literally everywhere. It's in movies now. It's in TV shows. It's on the news. It's everywhere. The one place it doesn't need to be is streaming, where people go to get away from all that. It's a good point. It's a fair point. It's a good take. Strong take. Anyway, I don't need to rant about politics. I just rant about psychology instead, which is far more interesting, in my opinion. We hate you too. Oh, it's so sweet. Literal yeah. I'm talking literal politics. Literal politics is no good. That's why one of the golden rules on this channel and in the Discord is please try not to talk about politics, especially from a partisan lens. Like, bipartisan stuff, I'm usually pretty lean on. At that point, usually that means there's some common ground and people aren't trying to rip each other's throats out. So that's fine, whatever. But, like, partisan stuff, nobody knows how to be reasonable about partisan politics. Nobody. Not a soul. It's better to just leave it on the wayside. An old family practice is you leave your politics at the door when you come in. Nobody wants to deal with it. We're going to come in, we're going to get along, we're going to be happy, we're not going to talk that bullshit. When you leave, you can pick up your politics bag and take it with you again. But when you step in the door, you leave all that garbage outside. And it works. Our family generally likes each other, for the most part. It's always worked. Yeah. Same thing with this stream. Like, when you come into the stream, you leave your political bag at the door. If I'm interested in bridging a topic, I'll bring it up. And I will usually control the flow of it. Effectively, I will moderate the conversation. Make sure it stays reasonable and doesn't get too far into the weeds.
I just try to have a good time in my streams. And I've learned that, like I've said before, I've learned that because before I was not always that way. If you dig up some of my older videos on my Darth channel, you're for sure going to see videos of me ranting and raving about games and except.
It's me. I do so in a positive light, though, I like to think. I'm generally positive about things and optimistic about my ranting. Usually. I rant, but it's more of a I enjoy ranting sort of rant, not like an I'm really pissed off about this kind of rant. Oh, God. Is he pointing his finger at me? But, you know, I generally try and keep the ranting positive or at least optimistic. I'm very optimistic by nature. So. Oh, God.
And I've matured out of that because I got sick of my own negativity, to be honest with you. And so now I'm kind of realizing, while just trying to talk about and look at games, it is hyper frustrating for me that gaming in general, this isn't just like a my chat thing. This isn't like a YouTube. This isn't a Twitch thing. This is gaming in general seems to have got so reactionary, where the only way that we can talk about if a game is good is by comparing it to another game and being like, this game's bad. Or it goes from the same.
I've been playing games my entire life. Like, I started playing on the Commodore 64 in my grandfather's basement. I played the damn luge game. I'm pretty sure I've told this story a time or two. And then, as I got older, I would sit on my older brother's lap, and we would play his little floppy disk games on his Windows 95 system. I remember the original SimCity. I would remember him, like, we'd get a city set up and established, and he'd just start spawning tornadoes everywhere, and it was, wind blow hard, wind blow hard. I'd be excited. And then, you know, I started getting into gaming myself on my own. Things like Star Wars, or it's not StarCraft, and then Brood War, expansion, things like the first Sims game. There was this floppy disk game I really enjoyed playing. It was, I don't know what it was called. It was a fighting game, but it was based around pirates. It was weird. It was quirky. I liked it until the disc came in contact with a magnet and it didn't work anymore. I've been around forever, to shorten a long story here. I've been around for a very long time, almost since the start of gaming, in one capacity or another. This is not new. This has been around forever. But nobody could hear each other screaming about it until social media kicked up. And now everyone is so integrated into each other's day-to-day lives that now you can see it everywhere. This was always there. You just couldn't see it. Now you can see it. Clear as day, the curtain is rolled back. Social media makes everything worse. I liked life better when it was just more localized communities and the screaming wasn't this upheavious roar. This cacophonous flood of blah. But this is not new.
People were saying they love the game a week later. The next week, it's the worst game ever and deserves to be review bombed. And I don't.
That's happened with Diablo 4.
I don't understand where the lack of nuance has gone in the conversation.
And then Season 1 came out, and a lot of people liked it again.
I try really hard,
but now people don't like it again. So people are flip-flopping
down the path of like acknowledging the faults when I see them. And I will say freely in this video because people still, for whatever reason, think that I'm trying to say the game's amazing. Diablo 4 is still a 6 or 7 out of 10, exactly like I thought it was in the betas before the channel literally went.
It's a solid game.
It's
got a lot of room for improvement, but it needs some fixing up and it needs some development time.
But it's a solid game to play for whatever amount of time you enjoy.
So I hate open worlds, and I think Diablo 4's open world is generally overall a net negative because it reduces way too much character or personality. But I think it could be better. I don't think they're gonna we're talking expansion level stuff. Like, they're gonna have to just fix it with the expansion. The base game's always gonna be what it is. It's too much work to fix it in this capacity. But for the first expansion, what I would love to see is a prominent hub city. Like one you go to from anywhere. A smaller one. almost like I don't know, a fortress or a base of operations or something like that, with a handful of NPCs that comment on everything. You know, kind of like our old ARPGs, or our RPGs in general, even where you have this cast of characters that follows you along, and you can always get their opinions on whatever's happening. That is legitimately good, and unfortunately, aside from a little bit of Donan or Lorath going through, and Lorath even like completely skips town for half the story, or a third of it, or something. Yeah, about a third probably. You just don't have that. Like you don't have a group of people you can just go to and kind of get their opinion and flesh out the rest of the world's perspective on what's happening beyond just your own interaction with the story. And you don't have those big characters aside from the ones directly involved in the story that, like Charcy from D2. I will never forget Charcy. He was an interesting character. Not necessarily dialogue wise, but the personality they gave her, along with everything, it's just an interesting character. It's very memorable. Charcy's memorable. I will never forget Charcy. And the open world kind of crutches on that, but it is something that can be fixed in an expansion. Like I said, get a hub, put some characters in there, you can interact with them. Great. Now suddenly the story has this uniting element, and you can kind of see the perspective of the world and other people in the world as you're going along through the expansion story. And the open world around that is fine, not an issue. The problem is the open world is a crutch, and a lot of the design that goes into open world just leaves you wanting more context. Open worlds have a tendency to lose context, which is a big problem with Diablo 4.
That's how I feel about Diablo 4.
Diablo 4
right?
is a good game in general, I think, but it's not
still in
an
this
amazing
day and
game
age,
yet. It can
if you
get
try
there,
to
but
be
it's not there
Kitty,
yet.
you're really Kitty wants in on this video too. She's been frustrated because she hasn't been allowed outside very much. But you can't talk about, my point is, you
A
can't
lot of
talk
birds to
about
go catch.
a game anymore without having to be on like one side of a political fence. You either have to hate everything about it or love anything about it. And if you try to have that level of nuance where you walk down and you acknowledge the negatives and acknowledge the positives, you either get thrown in a basket of somebody who's like a Blizzard fanboy. I don't know why that's a thing. It's like, oh, you're a
Nobody
Blizzard
wants you
fanboy
on their
now.
side if you're not all the way on their side. Same thing. Like this is you. Like I said, you can see this pretty much everywhere in life. This isn't unique to gaming. This is in everything. Didn't like my movie, or you had mixed opinions on it? Screw you. You're the enemy. You don't absolutely 100% blindly believe in my politics? Screw you. You're the enemy. Doesn't matter if we largely agree. If you don't completely agree, you're the enemy.
Actually, I've barely played many of their games. In fact, I got roasted because I did a tier list of Blizzard games, but I played like half of them because I haven't even played the
I've
original
played them
ones.
all.
And that is when you would have made a Blizzard
Including
fanboy. I
Lost
haven't really
Vikings.
played D2 all the way. I've never even played D1. Didn't play original StarCraft. Didn't play the Warcrafts into a World of Warcraft. You know, I played StarCraft 2, but I didn't play the OG StarCraft. So it's like, no, I've played some of their recent games, and I didn't even really like Overwatch that much. I played Overwatch 2 for like all of 10 minutes. Okay, so it's difficult for me, and this isn't even a Blizzard conversation or about Diablo 4 or about the way that people perceive my
No,
opinions.
because this is
it's
everywhere.
more of the political gaming atmosphere in general that I'm sick of, which is that no matter what, I can't get away from just people just picking a fence. Like I can't have any normal conversations with people, and it's actually driving me crazy lately because I just want to hear somebody say, well, I like this about the game. I don't like this about the game. And I'm playing the game until next year when Path of Exile 2 comes out in the beta in June. And then I'll go play that one. It's
Couple of things, I guess. First of all, there's an easy solution to this. Get off social media. That's going to help you a lot. Cultivate a friend group. That's how we used to do it back in the day. You don't necessarily want an echo chamber, but, you know, like-minded people who can have, like, a reasonable discussion about something. I have this all the time. I got a friend I hang out with in the evenings. We disagree on almost everything, but we enjoy talking about how we disagree on it and our perspectives on it, and we kind of see where we can find common ground on a topic, and you know, it's one of those things. Like you just need to get off social media, stop listening to every schmuck on the internet who thinks their opinion is important, and cultivate a group. It's how we used to do it. It was a good way to do it. I would highly recommend it. It's a little more work, yeah, but it's worth it in the long run, and it's great for your mental health.
Never that reasonable point. It's always like, oh, Diablo 4 has 1 year and then it's a dead game. It's in its.
Also, let's be honest, ARPG seasons. The majority of hardline ARPG players who are going to be all in on seasons, they're going to play it for about a month. So as long as D4 and Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2 and whatever don't all overlap their seasons, their season launches, there's plenty of room to play all of them if you're a hardline. Like, you're going to play at least a couple. Like me, I'm probably going to play Path of Exile 2 seasons, and I'm also going to play Diablo 4 seasons. And I think both games are going to be an interesting, they're both going to be fun in their own right. So I'll play one for a month, month and a half, however long it takes me to get bored of the season or finish what I want to do in the season, and then I'll do the other one when it goes into season. It's weird because ARPGs can coexist with each other very easily because of how their content cycles work. Very easily.
Grave, the devs are idiots. You know, it's always.
What's up, government
it's
official?
always that, and I guess I'm just like using this video as my fucking therapy session for a moment or something. So I'm sorry, but it's just it's I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I can't get a normal conversation about gaming anymore. It's just always it's always all the way on one side or all the way on the other.
I can with you guys, but to be fair, there was a bit of cultivation here in our community. Like, I'm inevitably going to draw like-minded people to me, and we can have a conversation. We don't always agree. Sometimes we completely disagree to the point where it is a little tricky to have a conversation, but generally speaking, we can have a civilized conversation about games or other things. Nobody gets pissed off. Nobody holds it against each other. Well, not for long, anyway. You know, people might just quit the conversation, and that's fine. I mean, if the conversation's gotten to that point, nobody can agree, you just quit the conversation. It's that easy. And if anyone does have an issue and does raise a stink or a fuss, I throw them out. Like, I deal with that. That's too high maintenance for me. I'm sorry. Leave. Go find somewhere else where that's acceptable. I usually give them a chance. Like, I'll tell them, hey, let's come on now. Come on. Let's be civilized about this. Let's be adults. And if they can change their tune, then great. They can stick around and we can continue talking. If they can't, then I'm just gonna tell them, hey, you're better off leaving, buddy. You're not gonna fit in well here. So it's one of those things. It's like, this stuff is still out there. You can still find this stuff. You just gotta try. It takes effort. Nonners. Oh yeah, it's all caps. Yeah. PoE 1 and PoE 2 seasons overlap each other. PoE 1 seasons start after 1.5 months. PoE 2 seasons both end at the same time. PoE leagues overlap D4 seasons all the way. Did they actually confirm what Path of Exile 2 seasons are going to be? I mean, maybe they have. I haven't been following super closely. I didn't watch ExileCon or anything. Well, okay, so you make a good point. PoE 1 and PoE 2 seasons overlap each other. PoE 1 season starts 1.5 months after PoE 2. You know why they chose 1.5 months? Because at 1.5 months, the majority of ARPG players are done with the season. The only people still doing the season are hardliners who can't get away, and content creators who need it. Everyone else has moved on after about a month and a half. And you can see this, like, if you where's Steam? Oh, no, not Steam. I want Steam. Right here. Seasons. Before seasons started, or, well, I mean, you can still see kind of, but once PoE got big. Seasons. People play for like a month, maybe a month and a half, and then they're gone. So you have PoE 2 start, or PoE 1, since it's going to be the older, more defunct game at this point. They could say they're going to develop them both in tandem, but one of them's definitely going to be the favored child. It's going to be Path of Exile 2. Because that one's going to have more general player-based draw. But anyway, seasons. So, starting the season for the next game 1.5 months after. There you go. And Diablo 2 just has to find where it kind of fits, or Diablo 4 is going to find where it fits in the cadence. Because let's be honest, people are either going to be PoE 1 or they're going to be PoE 2. They'll probably dabble either way, but they're going to be hardliners for one or the other. So, me, I might play Path of Exile 2 seasons if I like Path of Exile 2, but I have zero interest in Path of Exile 1 at this point. So I'll just play during the Path of Exile 1 season, I'll just play Diablo 4. And then I'll play Diablo 2 seasons when not Diablo 2, Jesus. I recently played, prior to the D4, my last ARPG season was the Diablo 2 one. But anyway, you're going to pick a couple and you're going to throw them in rotation. And as games get bad updates, like Path of Exile's had a couple less stellar updates recently, you can kind of see them here in the charts even. You got these great, and then they make a bad decision and people don't like it. And then they fix it up, they do good things again. Oh, bad season again, damn. Was this the one with all the loot controversy? I think this was the loot controversy season. And then this is the season post where they fixed it up. That kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, it's fine. It is what it is. As long as they don't intentionally overlap each other to the point of being malicious about it, there's room for a couple of big ARPGs to thrive. And sometimes you're into an ARPG and you play one season really hard. And then it's like, okay, well, I played that really hard. I might skip the next season or two of this game because, I'll wait until they introduce a couple of new things, and until there's a little more evolution, then I'll come back and play another season or two. This happens a lot too. Even when I was still enjoying Path of Exile 1, I would sometimes skip a season, just because I played the last season, I know I'm going to play the next season, this season doesn't interest me as much, the mechanics behind it or whatever. I'll sit this one out and I'll just do something else. So even with people who are enjoying a game, they might sometimes just skip a season. So at that point, well, I mean, D4 season's starting here. I'm kind of sitting this Path of Exile season out, and I played the last 4. I could use a break from it. Alright, I'll go play Diablo 4 season. There's plenty of room for ARPGs to coexist. Especially if they don't try and be carbon copies of each other,
And if you try to ride the line of like acknowledging what is okay, what is the problem, then both the sides hate you because the one side that's really positive about it's like, well, there's no negatives wrong about it at all. And then the negative side about it's like, well, you're just a paid shill or something. Like, I can't.
Most of these people are relatively young. They, like I said, we already talked about this. They need the validation. It's an issue of validation. People need to feel like their opinion matters, and this tends to be more of a younger, like, we're talking teenagers, early to mid-20s sort of thing. Most people start growing out of this as they get closer to 30. I sure as hell did. Most of the people I know sure as hell did. Most people I've met online sure as hell did, as they've gotten older. People I've been hanging out with for more than a decade. Or I've known for more. I don't necessarily hang out with them, but I've known or been around them for more than a decade. This is just it's young people coming to grips with themselves. It's a turbulent, that's the word I'm looking for, turbulent time in life. You're at the phase where you still got to figure yourself out,
Be reasonable in videos without having the vocal minority. And I realize the majority of you are silent, silent watchers, silent, view live stream lurkers and stuff that aren't, you guys just watch because you're driving and it's a podcast or in your head or something, and you're not seeing they're leaving.
I'm playing a game and I have this going on the second
comments,
monitor.
which is fine. Like, I understand that, but the people who
are
are
listening,
typically leaving like a lot of comments every single day. I'm getting a lot of positive ones, but I'm starting to get with the amount of reactions going on, negativity and all this stuff around the game. I'm starting to get a lot of people that are like choosing a side, and now even talking about Diablo 4 is like a war for some reason. And it's like
It's the so a lot of content creators, especially those who dedicate specifically to reaction style stuff, they feed off of the drama. That's what keeps the machine driving. That's what keeps the income coming in. So they've dedicated and built communities around topical drama and taking that to the next level to keep people invested in it. So his community is probably great. I've hung out in his, you know, watched a video or two. I've watched a stream or two. Yeah. But now you got other communities coming in and mixing in who treat this like a drama war because that's what it is to them. Because they find that engaging, which is probably not super healthy, but hey, yeah.
just a game, boys. It's literally a game.
It's a game, yes.
And the frustrating part for me is I can't talk about it like it's a game anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't have an opinion about it like it's a game anymore. If you just want to talk about the game, suddenly you're oh well that means you're supporting shitty devs and shitty game making, and you're the reason that games in general are bad. Or if you hate the game.
There's no such thing as universally good development and universally bad development. Take Arcane Studios, for example. They were for the longest time darlings because they had a bunch of good games came out. Then then things went a little sideways. There's no universally good or universally bad. That's a kind of a stupid take. Like there's bangers and then there's not bangers, and a development team can do both. They can do both back to back, even. They could do both at the same time. But one half the company's working on this, one half the company's that's a banger, that's a dud. So people who affix to this idea don't have a realistic lens on the world. Or haven't developed a realistic lens.
Oh, well, you're the reason that gaming is terrible because everything's negative and all that. Like, there's no, I understand.
You never blindly trust or blindly condemn.
But it sure doesn't feel like those are the people that are in the conversation.
You're just going to end up miserable.
I don't know. It's got me bummed out a little bit today, where I just want to have a normal conversation with normal people with normal opinions. And there's just a lot of flaming going on between everybody, and people just can't get along. And it just frustrates me today. If I had to make one point in this video, it's this. I hope that we can all agree that we're playing games to have fun. That was the original interpretation of these games. In fact, a lot of the negative comments I'm seeing are that the fact that games aren't fun anymore. But then we spend a lot of time doing things that aren't fun, like getting in really hardcore discussions with people that we don't agree with, when it's just an opinion, and opinions are just that, subjective thoughts that don't mean they're right because they have an opinion.
True, brother, true.
Constantly arguing and yelling with each other and all this stuff is really kind of burning me out a little bit, and it's ruining what gaming originally was for me. Like,
See, that's the tragic part in this. It's burning him out. That's the sad part of all of this, honestly. Because it shouldn't be. It's a shame. But and it's tough for him to get out of it because, he's creating content. It's tougher when you create content to escape this. Unfortunately. Because it's other content around your content that typically drives it. So, it's sad. I feel for him. I hate it. It is what it is. You gotta learn to deal with it. Or just walk away. Those are really the two options. You fizzle out or you figure out how to manage it. Me, I figured out how to manage it. Although I have that kind of blasé stance on most of life. Like I don't care enough to get personally, people are going to be people. I generally like people. I think people are generally decent, and they all have crappy opinions, and that's fine. We can talk about it. And that's the thing, I'm not out to change anyone's mind. That's the thing. That's, I guess, my advantage. I don't care if you continue to. I just want to talk about it. I think it's interesting to talk about it. I'm curious about your perspective, and maybe you're curious about mine, and we'll share perspectives, and kind of get a deeper understanding of each other and each other's stances and points, and then we'll move on. Nobody's trying to convince anyone else, because realistically, if you're trying to convince somebody, then you've already failed. If you have to try, you're not going to succeed. And that is, so just don't worry about it. You just don't try and convince people. Just do what you do, have your opinion, and that's fine. That's kind of where I stand, and that's how I avoid like falling into this unfortunate pitfall. Maybe it doesn't work for everybody. It probably doesn't. I guess you gotta have a certain head on your shoulder. But I always encourage people to at least try it out first to see if it works. If it doesn't work, then alright, well, you'll have to find your own path, I guess. But this is how I found my path. It's probably worth a shot if you can't figure anything else out.
My cat's losing her mind in the background. Like, that is a good example of how I feel about where gaming is going. Maybe we're not all the way there, but I'm starting to see it's getting that way.
The theme.
Where it's like, you can't do anything without this constant meow, 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 meow in the background. Eventually, you're just
Wait, is she talking about the internet drama or the cat? Wait, I wonder if that's what, like, subconsciously hearing the cat in the background put this into his head. Oh, that's, ooh, or, oh man, I like that's fun to think about. That's fun to think about.
like, just stop.
Oh,
Just stop. I'm just trying to play.
He even mimicked the noise pretty
it's
well.
Really not that serious.
I wonder if that was subconscious or intentional.
Maybe I wasted my own money playing the game. Maybe I'm wasting my own time playing the game. I'll play something else when I get bored. And it doesn't mean that other people can't have opinions about what's right or wrong about the game. I'm sure that's fine. It's not even like a thing of me getting mad at YouTubers or anything with opinion. It's really like everyone. Like you can't go, if I go to a Reddit, I know without even opening it today, I know it's going to be 15 comments mad at whatever the campfire chat was. I know there's going to be personal insults and all this stuff too. If I go to the forums, I know it's going to be the same thing. If I look at my own YouTube comments, there's going to be a lot of really positive comments about you guys being nice to me because for whatever reason, that's just still a flood of those nice comments coming in. But then there's going to be tons of counter comments of people just arguing and being mean to each other. Maybe I'm in the wrong business because I just like the yelling and freaking out about each other like actually just bums me out. I actually, before this, people ask me all the time like what my job was before this, and it was I did call centers where I pick up the call and like take someone's complaint, and they would immediately be like "fuck you" and start yelling, and it just like
I generally try not to do that, and you should like that. That's an example of it should never escalate to that point, first and foremost. But sometimes. And with dealing with Spectrum, I understand this whole hard. Sometimes you have to take a firm hand with a support center to get anything done, and that's because of how they're set up, how they're designed. Sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease. How do you think we got in touch with the regional manager and the local, like the state manager for Spectrum to start resolving our issue, which wasn't getting resolved otherwise for months, years? We pissed and moaned. We tried being nice, we tried being patient, but eventually at some inevitable point, you gotta start pissing and moaning, or stuff isn't gonna get done. Certainly not in a satisfactory manner. But yeah, you never go full, just pick up the phone like, hey, you have nothing to do with this, really, but fuck you, brother. You know, there's never a reason for that. No matter how angry you get, you're a grown-ass adult. Control your emotions.
I said, it's just like the cat in the background, where it's just losing your mind.
Okay,
and eventually
so it wasn't subconscious,
on, like,
it was intentional.
Crazy.
Okay.
And I just wanted to rant about it because honestly, I'm a little bit frustrated today. I know I'm part of the problem. I know I'm a YouTuber that goes out and done opinions. I've done reaction videos. I have, years of me like still doing the exact same thing, getting mad about videos all the time. That's part of what I've done in the past. I know that. And maybe it's just people.
I'm certainly not innocent. I've watched or reacted to a couple of videos where, I got maybe a little more invested into it emotionally than I should have, realistically. Well, some of it's playing it up for content a little bit, like the what was that video? The creator was Harenko, the Atomic Heart video. Yeah, I probably got a little more invested in that one than I should have realistically, uh, but me getting overly invested is still not too bad though. Thankfully, I still have a relatively cool head on my shoulders. Mostly, most of the time, most of the time. Not always, most of the time. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
Maybe with age, people
Yeah.
evolve out of it. But
Yes,
I've
they
grown
do
sick of my
usually.
own
Not everyone, but
constant
mostly.
negativity, and I've tried to
Exceptions
mature
to every
out of it.
rule.
And I'm just realizing like there's just a constant flow of new people in gaming, and it seems like it's spiraling more and more and more and more. And I know like anger and all that gets engagement. Yeah, I know that's the way it works. I know how the
That's
algorithm.
the big problem. Shock culture, anger. Like, everyone wants to feel these negative emotions. Why? Because they're driving emotions. And people feel like they need some kind of driving force. They need to feel like they're. I guess the best way to put it is people want to feel like they're a part of something like bigger than themselves in any capacity. That's one of the reasons religion is so big. That's one of the reasons ideological movements tend to get so big. People need to feel like they're a part of something. And one of the driving forces behind being a part of something is usually negative emotions: anger, frustration, hate, outrage, just generally negative things. So those tend to be a strong driving factor for creating collectives, I guess, is one way to put it. It's so different about games. People want to be mad at games, specific games, for not being what they wanted. Or because other people like it and they think it's bad, so they think those people are ridiculous and they want to be mad at those people. But they want to be mad collectively as a group, not just by themselves. They want to know other people are also mad about it, or mad about this opinion or that opinion. They want to be a part of a group. Which is also why mass hysteria is a thing and can oftentimes be a problem. Like, for example, the mass hysteria around Dungeons and Dragons, where it was, oh my god, it's Satanism. The bard's just trying to screw a dragon right now. I don't know if Satan would approve of that or not, but it's he tried screwing everything else before the dragon. Nothing else took, so he's like, well, why not try this one? I can't seem to land anywhere else. Let's try landing here. Yeah, but Satanism is a little strong. It's just a bunch of weird nerds being weird nerds. Myself included. Never tried to, to sleep with a dragon, but I've definitely walked into a room and drank everything on the alchemical table all at once. Just to see what would happen. Like an idiot. And I definitely started a weird cult. The cult of the bee. The cult of the bee lord specifically. So, I mean, I guess cult activity, and you can tie that to Satanism. Anyway, mass hysteria, it's how that exists as well. So, it's. Hopefully he can figure something out, some kind of grounding element to manage all of this, because I do like his content. I think he's got interesting opinions and takes, and I think he's reasonably level-headed about most things, and I appreciate that. That's what I look for. I don't care about all the rage drama and all that crap and everyone disliking everything. I just want to hear the opinions and thoughts of a level-headed individual. And he's been a refreshing voice in the D4 community because of that. For the most part. But anyway, that's the video. Let's see. Go ahead and grab the link here. There it is. Dive time? I'm thinking so. Yeah. Anyway, that was Darth Microtransactions. I almost forgot what DM stood for a second. Darth Microtransactions.